Hello everybody, my name is Aoudi, and in this video I will talk about a very powerful tool called Nessus. Nessus is basically one of the most popular vulnerability assessment tools in the market, and it's by a company called Tenable. In this video I will demonstrate how to install it and how to use it. Okay, so let us start. I am now in my course lab machine and I visited tenable.com. So we need to locate Nessus Essentials. You need to register with a valid email to receive an activation code. I already registered, so I will skip the registration step and go straight to download. When you get to the download page, make sure that you find the version that is suitable for your machine. Our machine is Windows 10 64-bit, so it will be this one. Let's download and install. Agree. The installation process is pretty straightforward at this point. Basically, what Nessus is doing is installing a web server on our machine, and I will talk about that in details shortly. Okay, the Nessus web server is now installed on my machine, and Nessus launched my default web browser, which is Edge. Notice here the address: localhost:8834/welcome to Nessus, etc. Let me briefly comment on this address. As I mentioned, Nessus installed a web server on my machine. That means to access the tool, I need to use a web browser. And therefore, I would use the local address of my machine, either the IP address, or we can use localhost, as you can see here. But what is 8834? 8834 is basically the port at which this service is accessible. In very simple words, ports are gateways or logical addresses within the computer through which network traffic would go in and out. If your computer is a house, a port would be a door or even a window. Okay, so the installation process is not yet complete. We still need to download and install the different Nessus modules, the scan templates, and so on. So let us proceed. This is a warning from the browser about HTTPS and not being a secure connection. That means there is no digital certificate that the browser can verify. But of course, we will ignore this because we know this is a local server that we just installed. Make sure Nessus Essential is selected, which it is. I already registered and received an activation code, so I will go ahead and skip the registration here. If you haven't, this is where you can register and wait for the activation code. Next, we will select a username and password. Please make sure you select something that you will not forget, because these are the credentials that we will use to access the tool after installation. When you create a user account and click submit, Nessus will continue the installation process. As soon as the process is complete, Nessus Essentials will prompt you, as you can see here, to launch a host discovery scan. But we will skip this for now. I will click close. Let's examine the interface of this tool. It's a web page, so it's very intuitive and very easy to use. You can see here there are 3 action buttons on the top right corner of the page: import, new folder, and a new scan. Nessus is a vulnerability scanner, meaning using Nessus we will scan computers and computer networks for vulnerabilities. In other words, using Nessus we will create and run scans. So the new scan button will allow us to create a scan. Scans are organized within folders, and the new folder button will allow us to create a folder of our choice. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this. I will create a folder for my course. Folder is created successfully. I will leave the import button and the import feature to the end. Let's go to the left side of the page. You can see here the folders where the scans are available. By default, you have a folder called My Scans. These are the scans that the user creates. This is the CIS2103 folder that I just created. You can see a trash folder if you deleted a scan, and then you can see an inclusive folder called All Scans, where, as the name suggests, it includes everything, including the deleted one. As you can see, all the folders are empty, so we can proceed with creating a new scan. Before we start scanning, I need to briefly discuss this concept. Scanning computer networks involves three main steps. In the first step, we can scan the network for active computers that are up, on, and responding to our scan. From this step, we would get the IP addresses of the computers, or we call them hosts, on a network. Please note that not all computers would respond to our scans. Some may be up and running, but still not respond. This is usually a security measure. For instance, a firewall might be blocking scans from potential hackers. The next step, now that we know what computers are active, is to scan each computer for open ports. I mentioned ports before. They are logical addresses within a computer for incoming and outgoing network traffic. A computer has 65,536 ports, most of which are usually closed. However, if there is a service running on your computer that needs to talk to the outside world, then a port must be opened for this service. Imagine, for example, you have Google Drive or Dropbox installed on your computer. A dedicated port would need to be open for the files to sync from the cloud. The third and final step is vulnerability scanning, which is basically what we're doing in this lab activity. In this step, we study these running services on the active computers that we discovered, and we find out if they're vulnerable. A tool like Nessus automates the three steps. So let's see it in action. I will create a host discovery scan. All you need is a name, an optional description, the folder where you want to save it, but the most important of all is the targets section. For the scope of this course, I will discuss only two options. One is a single host, a single IP address, like for example the IP address of our Kali or our Windows XP. Say for example 192.168.44.21. That's it. You would specify the IP address of your target and you would run your scan. An IP version 4 consists of 4 octets or bytes. Each octet is 8 bits. 8 times 4 is 32 bits. The reason I mention this is for when we want to scan a network. In this case, I would need to tell Nessus how many bits of those 32 are dedicated for the network address. To do that, we use the / followed by the number of network bits. For a small class C network, for example, that number would be 24. So I would add /24. So basically what I'm saying here is that 24 bits are for the network and 8 bits are for the computers. Okay, for the purpose of this demo, I will scan my Windows XP. So I got the IP address, which is 172.27.103.106. I will enter it as a target and I will save my scan. You can find the scan in CIS2103, or you can also find it in all scans. As you can see, the scan is available with the schedule on demand. You can schedule it if you want, or you can run it right now. Notice the play button towards the right end. Press this button to launch and start the scan. You can now see that the scan is running, and of course it's gonna take some time. Meanwhile, you can click it to see its progress. What I want to do at this point is to show you the difference between the host discovery scan. By definition here it says it's a simple scan to discover live hosts and open ports. And the next scan that I want to run, which is the basic network scan, again it says here, a full system scan suitable for any host. So let's go ahead and create another scan in the same way that we did before. I will call this scan CIS2103 BNS, which stands for Basic Network Scan, and I will provide it the target IP address the same way I did before. I will save it and run it, and then we will compare the results of the two scans. So my two scans completed, and I can see them here in my CIS2103 folder. From here I can rescan if I want by pressing the launch button, or I can delete them. But what I want to do at this point is to see the scan results. So let's start with the first one, which was the host discovery. As you can see, one host was scanned, two vulnerabilities were discovered, and you can see that the two vulnerabilities are informational. Let's go back and see the other scan. As you can see, this scan is a lot more interesting. We discover a lot of vulnerabilities with varying severities. We discovered 8 critical vulnerabilities, 4 high, 3 medium, and so on. When we click, we get to see the full list of vulnerabilities sorted by severity. You will notice some of them are labeled mixed. That means within this category, we have multiple issues. When you click and go inside, you will see how many of each severity level there are inside. When you click a single vulnerability, you get to see its details page, including the description, the solution, a reference, and which port is associated with this problem. On the right side of the vulnerabilities detail page, you can see some important risk information, including the risk factor and the CVSS scores. The last thing I want to demonstrate is the import-export features of Nessus. So first I want to export one of my scans, and then I want to import it back just to show you how it works. So we will go to the scan page, click export, choose the format. For now, we can choose Nessus. The file is saved in the downloads folder and you can see it. There it is. We can now import it and open it just to show you how the feature works. So I'm going to go to my CIS2103 folder, and instead of clicking new scan, I'm going to click import, browse to the downloads folder, and choose the file. Notice that the file is disabled. I cannot run it. What I can do is open it and see the vulnerabilities report. So what next? Explore the tool further, get to know it better, perform the lab activities, and this is it for this video. Thank you for watching.